Hello everybody! Welcome back to another video of Battle Brothers. Today I'm going to be showcasing my crossbow polearm hybrid builds. I have two of them. I've used these guys extensively in my big campaign, my 800-day campaign, which I must preface is started before any of the DLC, so I haven't fought Chosen with this, I haven't fought Southern Mercenaries. I do have a legendary handgun, but I don't have any fucking ammo for it. So some of the tactics these guys have been in, I can't say how good these guys are against like nomads or like Chosen. I just can't do that. But I would imagine they would excel exceedingly well. So just quickly, I want to just talk through. If you've seen any of my Battle Brothers Fight Guide videos, you've definitely seen these guys in action. We have 330 kills, 330 battles, 739, 270, 557, 219, 403, 249, 549. These guys average about like 2.3 kills a game, I think. And that's counting the leveling ones when when they're not maxed out and like getting all these sorts of kills, and they're just kind of like shitty guys with jagged bikes. So they really kick ass, and they kick ass in lots and lots of fights. They kick ass in like orc fights, goblin fights, everything really. So, first things first, let's talk about the backgrounds. The backgrounds, you're probably going to see the perks you should take here on the right. But the backgrounds you're going to want cell swords. You're going to want, I would imagine hunters would be good too. I got a disowned noble. That worked fine. I wouldn't take adventurous nobles. I don't want negative range defense on these guys. As much as adventurous nobles are really good, I wouldn't get those. I kind of just found the disowned noble. I don't think I really meant to get them. So cell swords, hunters, poachers. Early game poachers are okay, and that's really about it. You want good. You don't want hedge knights because hedge knights can't get stars in ranged attack, and then you don't really want like farmhands or some shit. So you need stars in ranged attack, ranged. You want melee attack, ranged attack, and I think the build that I ended up liking the most is the ones with melee defense. You don't need stars in melee defense. You if you just kind of had like 15, 20 melee defense, that is like usually okay. I just don't want these guys to have nothing. Like 7 I've found is not enough. And sometimes with these backgrounds like cell swords, this guy started with 7 melee defense. I never leveled it. So if you have 7 melee defense, and these guys are usually behind a wall, like 11 here. These guys are like behind some due to the shield or behind a two-hander in the front. Their range defense is usually fine. The enemies are gonna, with their range attack, shoot the guy in the front over the guy in the back. So I wouldn't really recommend. Like I use anticipation. I thought about loving range defense, but I found that most of my troubles really come from melee. So talked about cell swords and hunters are your best two. Now traits you really want. You want traits. You want tough. You want tough. You want fear. I got a fearless one. Strong would be amazing too, so that's plus 10 HP, plus 10 resolve, plus 10 stam. What those perks do, or those traits do, is they give you a buffer zone of not needing rolls. Because let's look at this right here. At my endgame, he's level 19, so imagine his stats being like way worse. 63 stam is really bad. 60 HP is also really bad. 43 resolves, kind of okay. So he's really lacking HP, really lacking stam. This guy, 62, 64, 46, really lacking that as well. We have 70, because I took Colossus, so he's at 55. He had 66 stam on this guy, which is also not good. And he had 44, but Fearless gives him 54 resolve. So what Fearless has done here is means I've never needed the level resolve, which means I can put more rolls into HP and fatigue, which is great. This guy has tough. He started with 60 HP, which is bad, but tough means he has 70, so I never had to pump hit points. I'm okay with having 60 hit points. I don't want to have 60 hit points, but I'm okay with it for these characters, because, like I said, they've had 300 battles, they haven't really died. It's really not that big of an issue, but I just feel safer having the 70, which has allowed him to have 10 more stam than these dudes, even though he's actually in heavier armor, because I never had to pump HP stats, so I could always take those good stam rolls. Because these classes are really, really stat intensive. Because what you're doing is you're rolling for melee skill, you're rolling for range skill, you're rolling for melee defense, you're rolling for HP, you're rolling for stam, and then you're also kind of rolling for resolve. If they have 40 resolve, I would just kind of stick with that. I wouldn't. Maybe if you min roll HP and stam, I would take a good resolve roll. But I would never take more than I would never up the resolve on these guys. They need the other stats so much. You're trying to level 5 things, and you only have 3 rolls, and 2 of them are always the attack skills. You always want the attack skills, like all the time. Until you always want to roll attack until you're never missing, or you have 95s on everything. So that means you're trying to split between HP, stam, and melee defense, or ranged defense if you go that way, every single time, which means you kind of suck at all of them, which is a problem, obviously. So, next thing I want to talk about is another good perk is Eagle-Eyed. Eagle-Eyed, what Eagle-Eyed does is it gives you +1 vision. So a crossbow has 6 range. If you have if you have 7 vision normally, which means you can wear a -1 helmet. With the best one is the Zweihandler hat, unless you have like a legendary one right here, but we're not counting that. So the Zweihandler hat would give you, it's the best possible -1 vision helmet. But Eagle-Eyed gives you an extra vision, which means that this guy can wear a -2 helmet. So he's wearing 283 helmet as opposed to the 160 Zweihandler, and he's still got 6 range. And it's still -13 stam. I know this is legendary, but you could just take like a 250 hat or a 230 hat or just something, and then you could you just have so much more armor than the 160, which helps your battle forged, and it's just more armor. It's great. So Eagle-Eyed is a perfect trait. This thing's, I think, one of the best mercs I've ever seen in my life. Like, I'm not gonna lie. So weapons, I use bill hooks normally. I have a legendary bill hook here, but I would use a normal one. I'm trying a sword lance. I have a legendary pike. I have a legendary bill hook. I would go bill hooks and really bill hooks. You're going polearm mastery, so you can't use long axes. You can't use pole hammers or pole maces. I have a war scythe. I think it's the thing about the war scythe and the sword lance is they are AoE attacks. So the reason you're using them over a bill hook is because of the AoE. And when you have 60 stam, what is this? That's 23 fatigue. He realistically can do that like twice in a battle before he gets just auto fatigued out, and that's really bad. And sometimes these guys can actually hit up to 3 times a turn anyway, so using 2 of these attacks and a crossbow in the same turn isn't uncommon, which means it's sometimes better to just use the single target attacks, at which point I'd rather just have a bill hook and not have to try and finesse multiple attacks at the same time. So finally, I want to get into the skills of what these guys take. So we're going to start with, I have 2 builds. I have the regular, these 3 are all just different variations. I tried testing different traits on the regular hybrid build. And Volmar, my man Volmar, is what I affectionately call the Necrofucker. He's a VIP killer, essentially. He kills Necromancers, he goes and kills priests, he goes and kills Geists after he kills the Necromancer. That's kind of his goal. So, on the regular polearm build, you start with Student, obviously. Then you're going to go Quick Hands, just because you know you need to quick switch stuff. We're going to go Brawny, because you're wearing heavy armor. I don't like going Nimble on these guys. Nimble would solve a lot of problems. But the best Nimble mail in the game is this. It's this Noble mail. And I would rather give my Noble mail to my archers. And 200 is, like, okay, but it's not great. These guys have more stam with the there's some armor attachment out there that reduces fatigue, but like I said, no DLC, so I can't get a taxidermist. So we're going to go Brawny, because they need as much stam as they can. Then we're going to go Crossbow Spec, because crossbows take up a lot of fatigue. And then we're going to go Polearm Spec, because you now start moving around the battlefield. So those are your, like, that's your kind of basic perks. Now you can move and attack shit as much as your heart desires. Then we're going to go Battle Forged, because they're wearing the heavy armor. And then you're going to go Berserk. Berserk is amazing on this this class, because like I said, so let's say you start with your crossbow. You shoot the crossbow, get a kill, reload, you can shoot the crossbow again. That's 2 crossbow shots. That's amazing in goblin fights. It's so awesome in goblin fights. Now, other times, you could swing your polearm. You could get a kill with Berserk, swing your polearm again, switch to your crossbow, and if it's loaded, shoot. That's 3 attacks in 1 turn. Same thing, if you shoot the crossbow, you could then switch to your polearm, get a kill, and then swing again with the polearm and get another kill. So 3 attacks in a turn is phenomenal. You can't get 3 polearm attacks in a turn, sadly, but so what? You could also, get 2. You could move 2 polearm attacks, or get a kill with a polearm, move 1, do that again. It's really awesome. Berserk just turns these guys into killing machines. Next up after Berserk, we have Killing Frenzy, which I wisely took on these 2 characters. Killing Frenzy, you get more damage on kills. These guys will be getting so many kills that this comes into play a lot of the time. Finally, I'm going to go with Bags and Belts. Well, not finally, but then I'm going to go with Bags and Belts. I've taken it on all these characters. You could say take that first, but I haven't found that I really needed it. What I take is I take a shield. I take a heater shield because what I've done is these guys have range defense up the wazoo, so I've started taking a heater shield. I bet what you could do is you could take one of the Spira shields or the Nomad ones with 1818. You could take an Ancient Undead shield that's 2020. You could take a Kite shield. Take whatever is good for the fight. If you start pumping melee defense, I think that's fine. But these shields are for when you're rooted in vines and Goblin Wolf Riders get on you, like in Goblin City, or they're for when Orc Warriors push you back. Neither of which are really that common of circumstances. I'll be completely honest with you. I haven't really used these shields in many fights. But the thing is, when those happen, I'm fucked. Like, when I need those, I really do need those. Because these guys don't have a lot of HP. So an Orc Warrior is just gonna, or a Berserker is gonna wreck them. So they need to get that heater shield out. And then I have the two-handed mace for stuns. If a big monster gets on them, I can stun them. And if I can't stun them, I can daze them. You could argue a two-handed hammer to stagger them, but I would rather just take the mace and try and get the daze or the stun. If you're playing with Blazing Deserts installed, you could probably take some of those smoke pot grenades. I would imagine that would be okay. Maybe you could take a handgun and then try and do something with that, although I bet handguns need their own special class. And then after that, you could definitely take the final 2 perks you're going to take at level 11 as a student. You're going to take Gifted, you're going to take Pathfinder. One could really argue take Pathfinder before Bags and Belts. But, so the thing is, Bags and Belts, to wrap that up, is not terribly useful. But when it is needed, it's incredibly useful. So it's incredibly useful, but highly situational. So I've decided to keep it. The other things you could take is you could probably just take Colossus. If a guy's like super low in HP, I'd probably take Colossus over Bags and Belts. But then you don't have your mace, you don't have your smoke pot grenades, you don't have your net or whatever you have, or your shield. It's kind of just like a save your ass kind of thing. And then you take Gifted. Gifted, you take both your attack roll. You could maybe not take one of your attack rolls if you desperately need HP, stamina. I would take both those. I would never take a melee defense roll on this unless you're desperately lacking. But your point is, you guys don't have good defense anyway. You're just kind of living with the average rolls. Other perks I've tried Recover. I haven't really. It sucks when these guys fatigue out because they do fatigue out. But Recover I've only found is useful in goblin fights when I'm just constantly reloading my crossbow. And zombie fights. That's one. But at the same time, it's not that big a deal. I'm already not using the AoEs, so maybe if I used more AoE attacks. But I don't think you can because of the fatigue intensity. This character got away with not taking Colossus or Gifted. Got away, I see, as he has lower defense than my other guys. Has pretty bad stam. So Recover, I don't think is really that great. Honestly, I think these guys are good enough without it. In a lot of the major fights, the dangerous ones like Orcs, you're not stamming out in Orc fights. You're not stamming out in Ancient Undead fights or Unholds or Nobles, really. Because you're not getting the kills. What stams you out is getting a lot of kills in zombie fights is because you're swinging a lot, or is reloading your crossbow a lot in Goblin fights. So that's when you'd want Recover, but neither of those are, I don't think, worth it. This guy took Headhunter. I was wondering what Headhunter would do. He has a plus 22% hit head billhook. I haven't noticed it's really useful, and he's lost Killing Frenzy of all things, so that's definitely not worth it. I took Anticipation on these characters. I don't think Anticipation's very good. For reasons I've said. Like, these guys already have range defense, so they probably usually don't get targeted. And when they're in Goblin fights, which is their big ranged attack fight, they're behind shields, so I don't think it's really worth it. Now, Pathfinder is very good, because what it does is it allows you to shoot, reload, and move with your crossbow on any terrain except swamp and on hills. That's perfect. That is very strong. And what it also allows you to do is to move forward one, attack, and move back on forests and snow. Both of those are amazing upgrades. If you want to watch my Giant Orc Warlord Battle Brother Fight Guide episode to see how attacking where I give a description of how that would work really well, and you can see that in action. Alright, so these are super strong characters. These are really great. The next build I want to talk about is my man Volmar. He really takes the same perks. I think what he does, the only difference as what I'm looking at here is the order he takes it in, and he has Colossus and Gifted, and he doesn't bother with bags and belts ever. So, sometimes I would just drop his dagger and I would just take a shield if I really think I need a shield, but I usually don't. So, this you go Student, you go Colossus, you go, well, he went Colossus. Now, if you don't need Colossus, if you have enough HP because of your whatever, if you have Tough, I guess you could probably, yeah, I don't know, maybe then you take Recover, I don't know, maybe take Steel Brow. I don't really know. I was thinking maybe you could also take Relentless. This guy actually does care about his initiative, so that is something. But I would just go Colossus. This is kind of an important build to have Colossus on, actually. Next, you're going to have Quick Hands. Then you're going to have Brawny, and you're going to have Crossbow Spec. So the difference here, and then you're going to have Pathfinder after Crossbow Spec. So the difference here is you're taking Pathfinder now. Because what this means is with the Pathfinder and the Crossbow Spec, you are set to go and kill Necromancers. That is your job, and then you are set to go kill Geists. Not as well, but you can. Then you can also kill Priests. Because what he could do on a forest map, or on a swamp map, or even on a plains map, really, is he'll just run around the top or the bottom of the map wherever there's less zombies, get behind the fallen heroes who guard the Necromancer, guard the front. They usually will not guard the back, especially if you're six away from them. So then you don't need Bullseye, because there's no cover to go through, because you're just shooting at an exposed Necromancer. I would give this guy, I have a damage increase crossbow, which is perfect, because that means he one-shots the Necromancer with his crossbow every time. I'm not sure a normal crossbow would be able to do that. And then with Pathfinder, it doesn't take him very long to do that, and he can run from any of the fallen heroes. Because if he gets trapped by fallen heroes 40 squares away from somebody, he's probably fucking dead. I don't want him dead. So that's why you do this in the order, so you can get your Necro killing out early. It does work with Ancient Priests, not as well, because crossbows don't work as well versus the Priests. But, sometimes it's not necessary, but it can work. Sometimes I might just use him as a normal polearm in Ancient Undead fights. That's okay. Next, we're going to stick with Battle Forge, we're going to go back to polearm, Spec, we're going to go Berserk, we're going to go Killing Frenzy, and we're going to go Gifted. He's allowed to take Colossus and Gifted, I think. I don't think he needs Recover, because normally, I've talked about how these guys might need Recover, but not really. But in Necro fights, he doesn't, because he's running with Pathfinder. That means he doesn't build up any stam, then he's shooting, and then he's like walking over to go kill Geists. I give him the Geist necklace for this very reason, so it also doesn't get yelled at out of order. If there's no Necromancer and there's just Geists, he will just run around and he will he can attract Geists, because Geists will want to melee him because they can't scream at him. So then he'll just run up to them. He can polearm 2 of them in the same turn, or if one's directly adjacent, he can polearm Quick Hands Dagger, and then he can get up to 2 hits, really, if he misses. That's great. But that's really the order I would take this in. These builds aren't too separate, but they fill different roles. This guy is the VIP killer. This is kind of a luxury build. You could always just use archers to kill your zombies, but the issue is archers kind of suck against everything else in an undead fight. They suck against Geists. They're bad against Geists. They suck against zombies, kinda. They really suck against fallen heroes. But a polearm build, what the polearm build does is he runs around, kills the Necro with like good. This does work. This is he gets it very often. And let's say that I already bring an archer anyway, just in case, like, you know, something happens. The archer gets him, and then since he's already behind enemy lines, he runs around and he starts killing the geists that your guys haven't been able to get to yet, which is so strong. Such a good fight. These other guys with Pathfinder, it's kind of different. I think they just fulfill a different role. And it's okay to have this guy be slightly different because he still works in your normal fights. He's for all intents and purposes, a normal hybrid that can do something else, whereas these guys can't. They haven't had Pathfinder. I keep looking at 9 lives. They haven't had Pathfinder, so they can't do that. And if I better spec these guys, I'd have Pathfinder anyway. But I still think I'd rather take this dude out. So that is really all I've had to say. I'm going to talk about what fights these guys are just good in just really quickly. They're great against orcs because, you know, you move forward, attack, you can kill, slaughter orcs. They're good in goblin fights with their crossbows. They're good against nobles because they can punch through the armor with the bill hooks and they can kill the bill men, and then they can, you know, maybe shoot some arbalisters. They're good against raiders. If you saw my raider video, they're destroyed them. They're good against zombies because they can stand in the back line, and I have access to all the zombies in the front line, like beyond their frontliners, and hit them all. They're good against ancient undead because bill hooks have really awesome armor pen. They're good against necro savants because necro savants like to fly, and these guys have reach weapons. If you watch my necro savant video, you can see a couple of them in action. It's good. They're good against unholds because the way to kill unholds is reach weapons, archers, and then dudes with Indomitable in the front. So the dudes with Indomitable are there, and then you go up, hit the unhold, and then you walk away. Same with Orc Warriors. They're good in Alp fights as well because Alps, what you do is you hit when they all like fucking teleport. So the ability to hit them with a crossbow or from a reach weapon means you don't have to go as far, so your group isn't as split up, so you won't get slept and then killed. A little dangerous in Alp fights if they do get slept because they have such low HP, but still very strong. So basically every fight, you know, then there's like fucking direwolves and Nosherizzers, but those are kind of easy fights once you get late game. So they're really good in like any practical fight. These guys are super, super strong, and I wouldn't want a campaign without these builds. They are so, so good. Just one last quick thing. I wouldn't take Lone Wolf on this character. Maybe on someone who's worse than him, but he's already got good aim, good melee defense, and he doesn't need ranged defense in zombie fights, so I wouldn't bother with Lone Wolf. But that is all for today. I hope you try these builds out. You know, they're just so fucking good. So I absolutely recommend these builds, and I'll see you guys soon.